Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. This is Life List, a birding podcast with Alvaro Jaramillo, Mollee Brown, and me, George Armistead. We are at the end of 2025, guys.
We're going out like a lion, aren't we?
Yeah.
You're talking about weather?
Yeah.
You guys are having wind, and I'm having wind, and we had snow, and we had ice, and everybody in California and out the west is getting flooded, and it's kind of a lot of weather going on.
I am supposed to be on a pelagic right now.
Why not? Why didn't you go? Did you stay home just to talk to us?
Yeah, no, I love you guys and all, but when the ocean beckons, one must heed its call, unless the call is like, come here, you're going to get drowned in rain and salt spray because the wind is so high. So yeah, we had to call an audible. It was a bummer. We had a really good crowd assembled for the boat. Was looking forward to seeing a lot of good friends and trying to like snag one last really good yearbird for folks, but no dice.
What would that have been? What do you think is the most likely bird of interest that could have, not something crazy, but something like really like that could have showed up?
Well, I mean, I think forever lurking in our minds on these winter pelagics are A, great skua, B, albatross of some variety.
That seems crazy. Too well by, but the albatross, come on.
Yeah, I mean, there's neither one happens much. That's for sure. Even great skuas down in Hatteras where they kind of live. That's, as Brian Patterson likes to say, that's out where they live. Their numbers have gone down a bit out there as well. But records north of there are real sparse now. Not like kind of early 80s and before, when there was a lot of those Russian trawler fishing boats that were much closer to shore back then. So those are kind of the two things that are always on our mind. Also kind of lurking in probably the same realm of likelihood is like a Ross's gull out there with like Bonaparte's gull flocks. It's one of those things that it has happened off Jersey, I want to say in like about 1990 or something. But yeah, those are the white whales, I guess.
I'm surprised. I thought great skua would have been much more regular. Maybe I'm thinking
the three. That's by far what the best odds are, right? But
it's weird. It's weird. They used to be. Yeah, with the fishing boat situation changed it all, really. But
I think these are kind of fun and weird in that there's so much hope for something like that. Like particularly on these East Coast winter pelagics. I feel like that's the most that I feel back.
Yeah.
And the reality is that probably if the really crazy thing happened, it'd be somebody looking at their photos and saying, oh, wow, that was a yellow-leg gull.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, wow, all the features are there. And like, oh, boy, too bad we didn't see it.
That would be a real bummer. Yeah. But of course it does happen. And as you say, that wouldn't be unlikely to have something like that happen, really, at some point.
I know we have a full suite of things to talk about, but this photo, this just made me think about this. I was reading, the new red crossbill summary of like how to identify the call types came out, finchnetwork.org. But there was a point there made where the most recorded species on eBird in North America is like red crossbill is 1 or 2. Of all the most recorded birds in all of North America. And I think, next was something moderately common. And I thought like how wonderful that is and how in a weird way kind of upsetting because like we only pay attention to stuff when there's a potential lifer or rarity involved. So everybody wants to record crossbills to know what they're hearing and if it's something cool. But we should be doing that given we have the ability, right, because we can do it for red crossbill, for all sorts of other things that might be of interest eventually that we don't know about, like, house wrens, different warbler song, whatever it might be. And I thought, like, wow, it's, and similarly, in pelagics, everybody photographs everything. So you get this fully documented birding outing, unlike any other, where people can sometimes go, hey, I was looking at my pictures and there was a Ross's gull in with the others, but we just didn't see it. And it's a weird, like, it's cool, and it's also like kind of not cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Almost like the picnic table effect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as if we're not actually being intentional with some stuff where we could just add to the knowledge base. We are only intentional when we can get something out of it. And I was like, oh, that's like human nature right there in
It's
the
true.
birding world.
I have long been
Yeah.
meaning to like just record my mockingbirds,
Yeah.
here in the yard and at the farm, and just see exactly how many species I can identify within their repertoire.
Yeah.
And I've just listening, I think I've gotten up to a dozen or so on a couple occasions with a couple different mockingbirds. But I'm like, if you actually spent time recording these things and taking apart the recordings, I think you'd find some pretty fun stuff in there.
I know. And it'd be great if before every one of those you said, "Was that a mockingbird?" And then started the
right. Is it a mockingbird? Yeah.
Is that a mockingbird? Anyway, I will cease. We should get on track.
Yeah, at some point in the year, we should get on track. It would be good,
Right? At least we didn't
Set a
talk
goal
about
for next
pizza.
year.
Yeah, exactly. For maybe 2026. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, should we dive into our birding recaps?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. I threw y'all some questions, and I had fun with it too, just thinking back over everything for the year. So I guess we can just jump into this. And I'm not going to ask you to number your top 3 bird sightings. This doesn't have to be, well, you know how I am at the end of a tour. I really want everyone's top birds. And I want them numbered. But for this, I would love to let's just do 3 bird sightings that come to mind as some of your favorites of the year. What are the first things you think of?
Right on. Al, you going to kick off?
Yeah, my definite favorite I've talked about before on, a few months before, was when Peter Burke and I were on the Svalbard trip, and we had those 2 Ross's gulls fly by. Speak of the devil,
Oh, yeah.
which were unexpected, beautiful, and it happened, with my long-term birding bud. Like it was like, and we just conceivably it was not supposed to happen. And there was, and it did. And I think, if it was a lot of other people, they would have gotten the sort of fundamental joy of that as much as 2 kids that grew up looking at pictures of Ross's gulls and thinking one day we might see one of those. I mean, and it wasn't a lifer for either one of us, but it was the first adult that either one of us had seen. So just unexpected. That goes right up top for various reasons: friendship, birding, beauty, unexpected, rarity, being on a ship, all of it. So there's my number one. I would say. I don't know if I was supposed to go 3 to 1, but like I just blew it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember seeing your post about that, knowing that you and Pete were there together, and that you were not supposed to see Ross's gulls, and I was like, "Geez, man,
Yeah,
those guys are probably going out of their brains right now."
and ironically, used to be regular, but that was a whole other aspect of the story too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, George?
Yeah, I have 3. I had to go back and think about this a little bit. It was a good question, Molly, and I was thankful to have the exercise of actually like looking back through trip reports and being like,
yeah,
like what were some of these highlights? And so I had 3 birds And the first one you were there for, Mollee, was the pied harrier. I certainly
thought about that this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I realize there's places that people, it's a fairly widespread bird in Asia. It's not particularly rare, although declining, I understand. But it is a really handsome bird. I mean, they don't make them much more handsome. And we really wanted to see one, seeing an adult male in pretty much immaculate plumage was really thrilling. And with that gang we had, made it all the more special. And it hung around a while. We were able to get some pics, which was cool. That was one. Another one was kind of like, and this is maybe seem a little strange, but volcano junco. This is a bird. I'd never been up to the high parts of Panama for this bird up there. And in Costa Rica, the one other time I went to go look for volcano junco, I was not healthy. And I was there birding on my own with some friends. And the one day we had to go look for volcano junco, I was out of commission. And I actually at the time thought it might be elevation sickness, but I've never, ever had elevation sickness since then. And, so I'm pretty sure it was not that. I think it was just some bad food or something. I don't know what, waterborne disease or something. That was back in like around 2000. And so I missed it. This time we got up there and it was pretty foggy at first. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to dip on this thing again. But we did find it. We had it hopping around at our feet. Really cool bird. It's a big junco. I don't think people realize how big it is compared to other juncos. That was pretty cool. Really enjoyed that. Got some nice images of it in a cool setting up there. And high elevation in Costa Rica. We had some like migrating Swainson's hawks and broadwing hawks moving through. It's pretty cool scene. Great gang. My final one, I think, for the year was Emperor Goose on our Alaska tour. That's Emperor Goose on Alaska trips for me at least over the years is usually kind of hit or miss. We had 3 different flocks of kind of 8 to 13, I think, something like that this year. And to hear them was that, like, one of the things you mentioned was sound. I had seen emperor geese a few times before, but I'd never seen multiple flocks and been able to hear them. And that was like a pretty unique thrill. And we had a really good group, Adam Betchuel and the gang at Birds, Georgia. We had a really fun group of people on that trip. And I was trying to tell them, like, guys, I didn't know we'd see one emperor goose, much less like multiple flocks, and hearing them call, having them fly over the road a couple times. That was pretty special. So those are my 3 birds.
That's awesome. I was just talking about volcano juncos with a few folks last week. We were talking about doing that drive and specifically how you can go from sea level to like 12,000 feet or something. It's pretty high up.
Yeah.
We were talking about altitude sickness for that. I sat up there once when I was traveling on my own, and I was doing work for the Forest Foundation, and I used to have to sit in long meetings for those. And I knew you got service at the top of that hill because you go up to all those towers. So I sat there with my fake Zoom background in my car with volcano juncos.
Wow. That's a good meeting bird, volcano junco. It's good conference call bird.
Nobody had any idea, nor would they have cared. But it was a cool spot. I'm sure several of our listeners have been there too. That's cool.
Nice. So what were your 3?
Yeah, one of the birds that I listed was one I saw with you too, George, and that was Himalayan griffin. And when I pulled up all my trip reports and was just, kind of scrolling through pictures and whatnot because just scrolling through my life list was kind of tricky to pull out species that really stood out to me. But I thought when I think about just the whole adventure of India, that was the bird that kind of stands out as iconic. We saw them a lot. We saw them well.
That was the one that you got like in descent too, that video, right? Where it like
cool video
it like dropped like a stone, and I think it was you and Jimmy up front and me and Kristen were in the back, and that thing came down on a carcass. We saw a couple of them, I guess, but that day I just remember that one being like, oh my God, she's getting that video right now.
Is that the main species on like the sky burial? The active participant?
Himalayan griffin. I don't know, Al. Which the sky burial, like when folks
people are put out, on top of a mountain, and what species of vulture is the one that lets them go back to nature. Bird we would see at certain places in Bhutan, but never very close. They're always pretty far. Yeah.
Yes, it says from what I can gather, it's Himalayan griffin and to a lesser extent, bearded vulture lammergeier.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
they break the bones.
Yes, exactly. The bone breaker.
Bone breaker. Volcano junco. I've never seen one. I think I probably mentioned this too. It's like one of those things I've always wanted to see because I worked on juncos when I was younger, and it's the base junco. It's like all juncos come from that junco in a sense, to simplify things.
It's at the base of the phylogeny,
of the juncos.
I didn't realize that. That is really cool.
Yeah, and it kind of goes up as you go farther north, the resident juncos, like the next one in the group that sort of popped out was Guatemala junco, and then, you get further north and you get into the yellow-eyed. But one thing about juncos, though, like here in the winter, I am thinking, like, what is it about juncos? Like, most of the sparrows are gone, okay? Like, for you guys a little further south where you have wintering swamp sparrows and song sparrows and various other sparrows. Here, the two that are really the only two that are regular are junco and American tree sparrow. And I'm like, white throats, you can find them here and there. You can find, you can find a lot of the other things if you look hard enough for Christmas counts. But juncos are common. And like, why they're not the biggest. They're not the most, like, the one you'd expect would do well in winter. They are really, they're a real edge thing that can do well in the forest. But I'm like, what is it about juncos that allows them to sort of hang in and do really well in far northern situations, more so than other sparrows? And I was like, I don't have an answer, but it's one of these things I'd never thought of in the West Coast because you never have, there's juncos all over the place, and they're very adaptable, but you don't think of them as like these super hardy birds,
Well, and on the flip side, I guess the opposite, that they are quite restricted and not moving in the lower places where they're restricted to the mountains, like volcano juncos and Guatemala juncos, right?
Yeah. It's interesting, little juncos.
Yeah, it is. And they're cute.
They are cute. Some places around here they call, I don't know if it's regional, they call them snowbirds. Yeah.
Yeah, here too. So it's a bird that a lot of non-birders know.
Mm-hmm.
For that reason.
Well, I think it's such a feeder bird, that comes in during the winter for a lot of people.
Certainly been in good numbers in the yard here the last couple weeks with all the weather we've had. We've had a couple snowfalls, and at times I've had kind of between 60 and 70 feeding on the ground here.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah. It gives me hope for, Oregon junco or some other fun sparrow. So,
yeah.
Totally. Well,
all right, Molly, so you got Himalayan griffin.
Yeah, I've got Himalayan griffins. Another one.
I got my other two later too, right?
What's
that?
I got my other two later, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
We'll circle back.
We were going to go one and then.
Oh, I splurged. Yeah.
Clearly, we didn't make a plan for this, so.
I like it.
Welcome to Lifeless, everybody. The second one, which I've thought about this for a lot of the year, is Tiny Hawk. And that was one. It's the only one I've ever seen. And it was kind of a quick moment in Colombia with one of the Hillstar groups that I did with Yesenia. And we just rounded a corner and it was there. And it's just one of those species that I'd never seen, but it's just so obvious what it is when you see it. And I think that's so cool. And everybody in the group, just like the element of surprise. And there are so many of those like widespread, uncommon raptors specifically throughout the neotropics. And you just put the time in and you'll run into one eventually. And that was the case here. And I got really excited for it then too. So that was just a fun day.
Don't you think it is the kind of bird that the driver might stop and go, "Hey guys, I got a real tiny little hawk here." Because it's really well named. It's like a little tiny thing, and you're like, because you think tiny hawk, what a stupid name. Then you see it, and you're like, yep.
I love the name. The only perhaps slightly name that I might prefer more would be teeny tiny hawk.
Teeny tiny hawk.
Maybe there'll be a split someday.
No,
I like small raptors. I think that's like some of my favorite birds, period.
Yeah. I mean, the falconets we had in Assam were also ranked for me in my list for the year.
I thought the same. I had to pick one. I realized I could end up with all raptors and what I would come up with for a top list, which kind of surprised me thinking back. But I'm just from back-to-back trips where we had pearl kites on both. That's another one. Just little bullets. They're cool.
Tiny hawks, they prey on hummingbirds sometimes, which is, I mean, anything that can capture and eat a hummingbird is pretty impressive. So
yeah, thinking about the lineups of different wildlife that feed on hummingbirds, like I'm thinking about praying mantis because we saw one of those guarding a hummingbird feeder. What a crazy mix of things that would hunt them. But well, my favorite bird that I saw this year, I think, would have to be diadem sandpiper plover, which I talked about a little bit on here, which was a good bird. I mean, we can talk about that a lot, and we have. But just taking a whole day to go on an adventure in a really surreal place that is beautiful and remote, and it's challenging, and nobody else is around, and just the whole thrill of that, I realize is something that I really, really enjoy. I guess that's a quest bird, right? It's the quest.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking as you're saying. I was like, there are certain birds that qualify as quest birds, and that is among them firmly, in my view. Yeah.
I've revisited those thoughts a lot. I wrote a piece on this, actually. I wrote myself a big trip report on this Chile trip. And then I wrote a separate piece that was just all about this, and I've kind of gone back, and I've just kind of, I like to write, so I just keep analyzing it and thinking about why it was so meaningful, and the more I do that, the more I get out of it too. So that experience stands for why I love birding pretty darn well.
Yeah, we found diademed in two different places, two different parts of our tour, but then the second one, everybody had already seen it, so they didn't have the big kind of, stress about it, like at that point. And so we rolled into up on the top where the thermal, sort of bath area is. That's right at the top of the road in the Yeso Valley, which is sort of now the classic place to go. And we started setting up lunch knowing that we would eventually go and look for them, But the funniest thing was that somebody there's like a little toilet there. They went over that way, and it's like they found this juvenile diadem sandpiper plover, and suddenly everybody's like, "Oh my God, let's go over there!" And they're photographing it. But and it was very tame. And the first sightings we'd had up in the north were relatively distant, good scope views and good photos, but pretty distant. And then I stayed up to clean up all the lunch stuff while everybody went downstream looking for adults, because we knew the adults were around somewhere. And it was the funniest thing because we pulled up the vehicle to a place where, it was a little closer to the folks, sort of start thinking about leaving. And I'm just wandering around looking and photographing things. And I look to my right, there's adult male tag team semi-pro like 10 feet away, and everybody else is like 2 blocks away, and I'm, waving my arms, kind
Hey
of like, it's
guys.
here, like not wanting to, and they sort of start seeing me, and they all come back, and
Awesome.
it's funny how it's there, but it still can be hard to find. And then we had the whole group there enjoying this male, and then somebody looks 20 feet to the right, and there's a sleeping female none of us had seen for 15
Wow.
minutes. And it was just sitting there, like, and they're like, oh, crap.
It's like, look at these idiots. What are these idiots doing this?
So even when like you have it almost dialed in, you don't, like there's still a quest. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that even though it wasn't the lifer day for most people, that second day was the more fun day because of all the stuff, how it came together and how everybody was relaxed. Like they were just birding and they happened to see the bird rather than like, we need to find this bird now, then, which is a lot more stressful. So, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
speaks to the just having time someplace and seeing what unfolds. Give yourself time, seeing what unfolds.
Yeah,
and sometimes
exactly.
that's the best thing of all.
Yeah. I guess we probably saw the same individuals a month apart, which is kind of cool.
And we were thinking that they were getting ready to do their second nesting because they do nest again. And by the time we go back in like February, March, they'll have another brood, another youngster or two that are old, definitely not the one from November, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting for a shorebird to do 2 broods, actually. So
Yeah.
at least for the shorebirds we have don't, like the Northern Hemisphere shorebirds tend to go 1 brood.
They don't have time. Yeah.
Yeah. Even killdeer. I think killdeer just do 1. So.
Yeah.
But
another thing that really stood out to me about that specific experience there too, and actually getting to put the time in, is just thinking about the fact that that is their reality. I mean, if they're moving, I think it's to somewhere even more remote and removed from humanity. And the feeling of such a wild place, I think, was really special too.
Yeah. Yeah, they put a little transmitter on a couple, and in the winter, they actually crossed the Andes and went to the Argentine side and stayed. Then we're not that low. They're still pretty high, but in an area that's a little drier. So I think there's more precipitation on the Chilean side, less than the Argentine. So they just went to a place that is a little less tricky to deal with in terms of snow and ice and so forth. So, but they were still really high up, like, and I think the ones that they detected were away from roads. So you'd have to hike to go and find them anyway. So it's kind of lucky that they're near the roads. Otherwise,
If you call that a road.
Yeah.
Someday. I'm still in the have-nots for that one. Someday I'll tally that bird.
That's right. Well, Alvaro, what are your other 2?
Well, so one of them is in a way symbolic in a sense because such a big part of my year was just moving, and like the new place now. We're in the middle of winter, and the birds are hard to come by, and especially new birds that haven't seen in the yard. It's and there's a element of like, wow, this is really hardcore winter, for a few weeks that you get, everything kind of settled in. And what I really didn't expect is just the other day, a northern shrike came through and, buzzed everything on the feeder and then landed, on the big tree nearby. And it's also in the sort of idea of what's your favorite bird? My favorite bird is the one I'm looking at right now, kind of thing. Sort of, it's not amazingly rare. It's expected, but it was super exciting for me. And, in California, Northern Shrike, I found one once, and that was a pretty big deal over there. And it's sort of symbolic of the move and the different things I'm seeing now. So I thought, that's a highlight, for me. It's like, and shrikes are cool. People like shrikes,
It's sort of in that the small raptor,
Exactly.
vein that Mollee was talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like tiny hawk, but northern tiny hawk.
My first ever northern shrike was in Churchill, was in Canada, and I was young. I think it was in high school, and it was like flying across the tundra carrying a bright adult male yellow warbler. And I was just like, it took me
Wow.
a while to be like, I was like, what the hell am I even looking at here? It's like,
Yeah.
I just could, like the composite of, all of that didn't make sense to me for a solid, I don't know, 5-10 seconds. And then it perched and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like I was not paying attention. It was a moderately windy day and there's sort of funny sounds out there. Sometimes the trees are doing things, and I was hearing this odd sound and I thought, is that a bird? And later when the shrike came through, I was like, oh yeah, I think I was hearing the shrike because shrikes have these weird sounds,
They really do.
Yeah, yeah.
like little tinkling thing. Like when they sit and sing, it's almost like it doesn't match the bird. It's like this
Not
little,
at
like
all.
high
It's Mike
pitched kind of like,
Tyson. It's like Mike Tyson. Yeah.
yeah, Mike Tyson.
Yeah. The Marshall and I were doing a Christmas bird count once here in Bucks County, and we heard one before we saw it, and we're looking at you like, the hell is that?
Yeah.
And I remember like the one sound that this one was doing at the time. I was like, it sounds like a really big like tree swallow or something.
Yeah.
And then we went over and it
Interesting.
started making some more characteristic sounds, and we were like, oh wow, it's like a singing
Yeah.
northern shrike. It's awesome.
That's
Then
great.
my other, bird in the top three, which is actually, it was multiples. It was just in the last Chile trip where we did the boat trip on Chiloé Island, where we try to go and find the Pincoya storm petrel, which we was described only 11, 12 years ago. And every time I kind of learn a little bit more about this thing, the more I realize like, wow, it's not at all like what sort of we expected or wrote about in the original publication. And one of the things that really came to sort of clear understanding for me last year and this year particularly is that the main field mark that we sort of came up with originally was that they have this white belly, but in reality, a lot of them don't have white bellies. And it just seems so off. And it's one of the reasons I think with people have thought, oh, these things are so variable, they're hybridizing, interbreeding with everything else. And but you realize that in the wings, they actually look very unlike the more northern or southern sort of populations that are related to them, the Andean storm petrel or the Fujian storm petrel, which are Wilson's types. And fortunately this year they captured about 10 in the project that's trying to figure out where they breed to put transmitters. And indeed, the ones they captured going into some breeding locality somewhere have really variable amounts of white on the belly. Some of them have some have speckles, some have none. And that whole thing was, I love the discovery aspect of birding. And I feel like also having an open mind, because one could have gone and said, well, we saw no pincoyas today because none of them have white bellies, and convince yourself that all you saw were some kind of Wilson storm petrel. But I'm like, no, these are all the same thing. They're just variable. And it was really like a fantastic learning experience for everyone. And we got some good photos. And there were some other features that were brand new to me that I kind of saw. And I was like, oh, let's check for that once we get more of them in the hand, So, and
Yeah.
there's more genetic info now that's available too that's not been analyzed. So we're moving forward, figuring out more of this in the Chilean birdscape. So that was a highlight. I like that.
That's great. That's back to the whole motivation to document, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Document.
that's a lot of motivation for it, for a
Yeah,
species
and
like that too.
so much of it too is that open-minded kind of like analysis that I've realized, like looking at the sort of conversations on the gull watching being winter now, sort of forums where there's a lack of this yeah, let's sort this out. Everybody just wants to know, is that
Is
a
it or is it
slatyback
not?
gull?
Right.
Tell me to give me a stamp of approval so I can send it in.
Hey, bird robot, tell me what this is.
Yeah, yeah, and versus like let's figure out all this stuff and let's look at a lot of photographs and let's like the motivation is there, especially if you found a rare bird. So I find it sometimes surprising that some folks go, well, I want some expert to tell me what it is. It's more like, oh man, I'm going to dive in now and figure this out, because the resources are all out there and they're free. They're photographs from all over Asia of these things, and you can go and look at them and, look through 1,000 photographs and say, yep, the bird we saw here matches or does not or whatever. So motivation, indeed.
Yeah.
But I guess not everybody's gears their birding into that sort of discovery thing.
Well, it's an investment of time too, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be tough.
in some ways, I don't know, if I were a listener to this, that might sound impossible for me, amateur birder, to feel like I can go out and contribute something to that. But I think the truth of the matter is, one, you can. There's just
Yeah.
all sorts
Yeah.
of things that people haven't paid attention to and all sorts of birds. And two, it's do it for yourself because, I mean, who
It's a fun
cares?
journey.
Ultimately, do it because you
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think if you found something that looks like a Vega gull or a slatyback gull, and it looks like you've got something going on there that is really different, and others agree that that's like a really interesting looking bird. If you got to that level in the field, you've got all the tools you need to actually figure this out. Like there's no magic to it. It's just look at a lot of photographs and kind of put down info on like what they look like and what's normal, what's rare, what's whatever. And I
Mhm.
think you can do it. But just I'd be encouraging of people to go and do more of the discovery aspect of birding because yeah, like when you do it for yourself, like you say, you not only learn a lot, but you like feel like, oh man, I really know a bunch of stuff I didn't know before, and that's kind of half the fun.
Yeah. I, just in the past few days was looking for a new book to read and stumbled across this total buzzword of micro adventures, but the book and the concept is that, like, you're looking for things that give you the element of adventure, which is, like, shaking up your routine, getting you outside of whatever box you're in some way, and this particular book is the idea that you could do that wherever. And I think
Yeah,
a lot about birding and just how much of an opportunity it is to stretch your mind and get
yeah.
outside of your box and do it anywhere you are. And I think that's so huge in the mental health benefits of birding.
Yeah, and like I was listening to a podcast that's more about sort of psychology and uh, completely different things, and it was about addiction, and not just the classic addiction, but how people are becoming addicted to all sorts of other things, like even just scrolling through the phone, and the way that you get a little buzz from these little small things that are super common, like they're abundant. So you just go for the next little buzz, and then before you know it, you're looking for a little stronger hit on something. But if you actually take birding outside of the realm of just like going and twitching a bird or, getting another, bird for your life list, and you go into depth, you almost like take yourself out of that loop and you have this much more rich experience that I think truly gets at that idea of mental health. And I was like, while I was listening to all this, I was thinking like, wow, we always talk about birding as being really great for your mental health. But then I thought, there are types of birding that might not be. When I was
Yeah.
listening
Right.
to this,
It
like
can be
Yeah.
in almost
obsessive.
the
Yeah.
addictive sense,
It can be obsessive
obsessive. Yeah.
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 I kind of
And
think, I don't know if this is negative for your mental health, but I think similarly, if somebody's just pointing at a bird and saying, "That's that," and you say, "Okay," and then they
yeah.
point at another bird and they say, "That's that," and you say,
Yeah.
"Okay," like, there's a lot more to get out of it than that too. That's
Right.
how I've been thinking about it
Right.
recently.
Or compulsive consumption of podcasts about birds. That's definitely not a good thing.
That is
But if
great
you're
for
going to
your
pick
mental
one,
health.
pick this one.
Yeah.
Speaking of, right before we recorded this, Naturally Adventurous released a year-end episode, and I listened because I'd sent you all these questions, but I thought, oh, are we going to talk about the same thing? They gave us a shout-out, but also
Nice.
I
Oh, good.
really
Love those
appreciated,
guys.
they did a listener survey earlier this year, and they said some people were answering about episodes and describing episodes that were actually lifeless, but they thought they were naturally adventurous, which I totally take as a compliment, so
Absolutely.
thanks for
Yeah.
that, y'all. I thought
Yeah,
that was funny.
they have a good structure. I mean, like I think I do like the fact that we don't have a good structure. Like we talked about. Okay, we did top 3, but we didn't like say, oh, let's do it like this.
Yeah,
It was
look at
just like
us trying to do
randomly go into it
their signature structure.
because it's more like a real conversation.
Yeah.
But it's so I think we're the most unstructured of the top birding podcasts, and we're proud
That's a
of it.
good tagline for us, Mollee. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yep.
Yeah.
Get on the boat or you're not going to listen to us
Unstructuredness.
for very long.
Yeah. Unstructuredness at its finest.
I know. Yeah, it's just
All
really
right.
good free form.
Speaking of, we got to get through these, or at least most of them, because I want to hear what you have to say. Next question is your favorite non-bird wildlife sighting of the year. George, what do you got?
Yeah. I kind of had 2 moments that I was trying to decide which was my more favorite one. And obviously there's more than 2 for the year, but there was, I think we had a moment in Tanzania, where we came upon a big group of elephants, bunch of females and youngsters, some really little youngsters. And they were just feeding, tearing into vegetation. And it was out in the Serengeti, endless plains, just a few trees around. And there must have been 70 elephants there. And it was us and one other Jeep. And so, and we just cut the engines and we just sat there. And you can just, you can hear the elephants after a while. Everyone just got quiet. Occasionally you'd hear a shutter go or a beep of a camera, but we all just got quiet. And you can hear the elephants making some low noises, but mostly just crunching and snarfing up vegetation. That was pretty amazing. And there's actually, I posted it. Our friend and guide Kennedy shot a nice video of us all just kind of taking in the scene.
That. I remember the silence of it. The
silence was the most it was definitely atmospheric to the nth degree. That was pretty amazing. I think in terms of thrillingness, polar bear, and I think this might have been more exciting because you just never know. Polar bears up at Utqiagvik, it's been pretty good in recent years, but I always go up thinking, well, maybe we'll get them, maybe we won't, and there weren't as many seen this year as previous years, as the year prior at least, when Al and I were up there. And so we kind of went out a little bit blind to the point, not knowing what to expect. And we didn't get kind of what I thought might be the prime time to get out there. So I was like, all right. Well, and we had to go in 2 different groups because they have crazy vehicle, can only accommodate about half the group at a time. But each group went out there and got polar bear and had good views. Our group had 4, and it's an animal that just I've lost count of how many I've seen at this point. I probably haven't seen 100 yet. I might have seen 50. But I just cannot believe that animal exists. It's just an amazing animal, and every time you see it, it's just an intense thrill. And again, we had a really great group of friends on that trip, which made it all the better. So I think polar bear was my number 1 non-bird wildlife sighting for the year.
Hard to top.
Well, I'll go right after you because I got the same animal.
I thought maybe so.
And then it would, in a sense, it'll be more like continuous chatter about polar bears. But I was thinking, yeah, it was, would it be the, Arnaud's beaked whale jumping around and the,
So
Chilean
jealous of that.
dolphin down in the, on our Chile trip just recently, sperm whale, first ever that we've saw on a pelagic trip this year out of Monterey. And then I thought, God, like it's so weird that almost all of these mammals that I'm, keen on are cetaceans. But there you go. My first walrus ever. That was cool. Then, the elephants that were right in front of our cabin in when, after we did our South Africa trip where, it was almost like scary to go out and we had to have the guy scaring the elephants, because they were eating us, eating the area right around the cabins. But then I thought of Svalbard trip where we saw the walrus, and, and also belugas and stuff. But that second polar bear sighting we had, the first one was distant. The second one where that the bear basically could smell us on this ship, and the ship was stopped in the ice. It was just like, the engines were off. It was this quiet situation. And the bear just came up to this massive ship, and we talked about it earlier this year, and it didn't care. Like it wasn't like, oh man, look at this huge thing. It was the mindset of like, I smell something good here. I might have a chance of getting one of these. I don't know what my chances are, but it's better that I go check this out rather than run away. Like not a sense of fear about anything and just, sniffing and eventually, being so close so you could hear the paws crunching on the snow. And that was pretty wild. And it's I was just contemplating this tour as well, thinking, because I'm going to try and do it again this summer. Because I was like, maybe every couple of years, but I'm like, it's a nice 1 week trip to go and see some cool things up in the north and accessible, So, yeah. So if anybody is interested, let me know. But yeah, polar bear, and it was such a clean animal, not one of those dirty polar bears.
I loved you talking about it, and the earlier episode this year too. It's just
Yeah.
you did a good job telling that story. I remember it well.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're continuing on trend because the two mammals that I thought about first off were river dolphins just a couple weeks ago in Inarita in Colombia on the Venezuela border. They're like the Orinoco River tributary, or the Inarita River comes off of that. And they were possible. They were certainly not guaranteed. And we had an evening where we went out by boat, and the real thing we were doing was waiting for nighthawks to come out. And there are a lot of nighthawk species you can get there. But we just had really pleasant, sunset birding. I
Hmm.
love being out when the world's going to sleep like that. And we kind of pulled off of the river into this little bay area, just waiting for stuff to kind of wind down. And suddenly we're just surrounded. I mean, there were a lot of these dolphins, and they were all in either pairs or maybe three in a group. It looked like young ones, not real small ones, but they were just carrying on all around us for like an hour. It was really peaceful and amazing. So that was pretty spectacular and not at all how I thought I'd get to see them. And I actually saw blind river dolphins in the Ganges earlier this year too, so I had two of those, and I thought that was great. But my favorite sighting of the year was also a bear, which was brown bears in Alaska in Lake Clark. Did a day trip to basically fly over and you spend a few hours with the bears. And it was, pretty well guaranteed that we were going to see bears. This was like something you sign up for. It's not cheap. It's a lot of people do it. It's a very orchestrated experience, but being a few feet from a adult brown bear feeding and just getting to experience them in a setting like that, it was just something that'll stay with me forever. So
And you're on foot, right?
spectacular.
Like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah. Like there is literally nothing between us and the bear except 15 feet of bank at some points. It's a really, really up close experience,
I want to
and
experience that. Yeah.
I I hate to say it because, like I said, it is something expensive that you pay for and it's planned out and you get dropped and you do it. And these are bears that are both a population that is feeding on salmon almost exclusively and have, hardly any food competition and anything just because of the abundance of what they have. So they're not seeing humans as predators as a large portion of brown bears or grizzlies do. Um, and two, yeah, it's just setting you up for prime conditions, but it's worth it. I mean, it's like gorillas. It's just some of the most magnificent and powerful animals in the world right in front of you.
Asian black bear is one I've not seen before, and it's possible in Japan, and I've always thought, "Oh,
Yeah.
man, I wanna see that." But have you seen the news? Like, the
Yeah.
Asian bears are getting all violent
Yeah.
and, like, attacking things and people, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe I don't wanna see one of these
No
things."
kidding.
Uh,
Oh,
Yeah, I saw that in Japan they have like some of the towns they have like bear trainings where they're
yeah.
like trying to like teach, and some of them I have to admit were kind of entertaining to watch. I was like, I feel like they're not doing this right, but I suppose
yeah.
anything is better than some of the behavior that might be going on there.
Right, you do.
Yeah.
And it's Japan, so they don't do, like, throw your friend at the guy and run like hell and save yourself, like, it's
Just
like
be faster than the slowest person.
right, it's more like, politely allow the other person to run, in conjunction with yourself and,
Well,
so
the best part was
Yeah.
the video I saw. There was like literally a guy in a bear suit who was the bear, and they were
yeah.
like, and they were like,
Ugh,
if the bear does this, it's like they had a whole kind of line of things that could happen and what you were supposed to do.
crazy.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
guess that bear spray isn't really a thing that's caught on much in Japan. I kind of read
It
into
might be
this.
illegal.
It
Because a
seems like just
lot of things are illegal in Japan, like even a switchblade and all this kind of stuff.
yeah, it's crazy. I read there was a standoff. A bear went in a grocery store, and they
sounds like a joke
didn't,
set
for
up.
whatever reason, didn't want to just go in and sedate it. So it was like a 4-day standoff for the bear to come out,
Yes.
and they just
They
didn't
asked it
go in and
nicely
sedate the
for
bear
a
and
while.
take it out. But yeah, I guess that the numbers are often that high. Like it's in the hundreds of people that have been injured. It's high for the year, but I don't think it's actually the highest year in recent
Oh,
times. I
wow.
think it's kind of been steadily increasing, and a few years ago it was even higher, but media attention is catching up. But
Well, we saw these, like, teams, patrols of really it's kinda interesting, bear patrols, and they had these dogs from Finland that are a specific
wow.
dog that is trained to chase bears away from an area. Really beautiful dogs, and they're trained I wanna say, like, I mean, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but they're Finnish dogs, but they're trained in the Western US by this person who's got the whole, like, how to make a bear scare dog, happen, and then they ship them to Japan, and these teams go out, chasing bears away from town. So they go back up in the hills and stuff, and I thought, like, that is interesting. It sounded like a really good way to do it, but I guess if the bear numbers increase enough, there's a point at which you cannot keep up, right?
Yeah. I It's interesting too because so Asiatic black bear is a separate species from American black bear, and both are the most arboreal bear species. And I have seen many times that the difference between a defensive black bear and grizzly in the US is that black bears are able to climb trees really quickly, so they have this escape, and grizzlies don't really have that, and that's one reason that you get so many more defensive grizzly attacks. Um, but Asiatic black bears have the same capabilities to
Hmm,
or even better. I think they spend an even higher portion of their lives in trees.
wow.
But for whatever reason, they are just much more aggressive. So I don't know if that really shoots the theory in the foot or if it's
Yeah.
just behavioral differences and animals that have learned to adapt differently. Maybe they know that
And
bear spray is illegal.
yeah, and if anybody wants to look up the dog, it's called the Karelian bear dog. They're
Cool.
really
Sounds
cool looking little dog. Like they're
sounds
not
like
little, but they're so, yeah.
Corellian. Sounds like something from Star Wars. Yeah.
Bears
Well,
are quite.
there's a region called Karelia in between Russia and Finland. So
The
There
bears
was a
are
guy,
really.
a park
Go ahead.
ranger I worked with in Colorado once told me a story about how like this guy set up his like campsite and was like, all right, got my tent set up, my minivan's pulled up here and all, and I'm gonna, make myself some dinner. Starts making himself some dinner. This black bear comes into the campsite and just starts kind of, destroying the site. And the guy like shoots up a tree in the campsite, and he's like looking down, watching this bear just destroy his campsite. And finally, the bear actually like eats its fill, and sits down like on its rear end at the base of the tree that he's in. And he's looking down. He's like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do here?" Some other like family of 4 or whatever pull in like a minivan. They see this destroyed campsite, and then they see this bear, sitting at the base of the tree, and they're like, "Oh my God!" They're like, "Honk at it, maybe it'll run away." And they honk at it, and the bear shoots up the tree.
Oh
And
my gosh.
the guy's like up in the tree with the bear underneath him and completely trapped. And they really didn't know what to do. And basically, they called my friend who was a park ranger, and he was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait this one out." Like, just give this thing some space and it'll come down. And
yeah,
that was what they did. But I think it took like an hour or more before this bear like decided it was in the clear to come down. And like, meanwhile, the guy's just like, 10 feet up it in the tree. I was like, my God, no thanks.
I had a friend who had his family and his little girls, and they had some friends over and stuff, and like on a winter, I guess this was summer. Spot they rented in Lake Tahoe area, and the house had those French doors, that if you don't put the little middle thing in there, you can just open them up, And middle of the night, a black bear just like stormed into the house, like opened up the doors, and the girls started screaming. Somebody heard something. They went out, saw this bear out in the foyer kind of place, and my friend was going to sleep, and he was in his underwear, and he jumps out, kind of like in his underwear, and grabs a stick or something, or an oar, I don't know, something, and he just went up to the bear and went, "Ah," half naked, and the bear looked at him and went like, "Oh crap," and he took off running away, like just ran out, and I was like, wow, I don't know. Hey, I don't know if I would have put on pants or not, or if you just go and do what you have to do.
Sometimes
But,
you probably just got to go with it. You'd be like, "Hold on, bear. I'm just gonna get dressed here."
Yeah. And if the screaming or the stick or whatever, obviously the bear was sort of like, "This is not worth it. I'm getting out of here." But but I think the trauma psychologist had to work on the girls more on the fact that they got to see dad in his underwear with a stick yelling, as opposed to the scary bear. But it worked.
Priceless.
He saved the family. I mean, what? Hats off or whatever.
Heroism at its finest. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
He's probably like, "What am I going to do?" And his wife was like, "Get out there and do something." I was like, "Rah!" But it worked.
Definitely stories that are funnier in retrospect.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Like at the time, it was probably like, you probably had to like open a great big can of beer after that and go, "Oh man." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have at least 2 bears around here that are active as of when I last left home 10 days ago. I've got to pull trail cards and look, but it's the closest bears have been to the house, and they still haven't gotten into anything that I like birdseed or any of that. But I was a little nervous we were just gone for 8 days, and I thought, well, we'll see if anything gets in, and they didn't. But we're kind of in the zone where there's not a true hibernation, but I think it's kind of dependent on the year for how active bears really are at this point.
Well, I mean, you've probably seen enough bears too that some of them are just like, they look small and not really that big of a deal. And then there's others that are massive. And you're like,
we've got
"Oh
them
my
both
God,"
here.
Yeah.
I remember one on your trail cam, Mollee, and I was like, I
And
wouldn't
this
want to run
late
into that
summer
thing.
one we had, he was all like scarred face, and it's a big bear.
Wow.
But then again, I think it's like the young males that cause the issues as they do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess we'll see which one ends up doing something to our bird feeders first, but I don't know.
I got a mammal and iNaturalist question for you all that is kind of this is taking us a little bit to different realm, but so we had beaver and otter that I was seeing from on the day that I got back, and I took a really bad digiscope of the otter, where in the digiscope it really does look like a mink. Okay, like I admit it, it looks like a mink, but this thing, I mean, I'm looking at it through a scope, bouncing around, and it's like a big animal. It's not a minky animal. So I put it up as otter, and then iNaturalists, they all start identifying it as a mink. And then I had to sort of do like, seriously, like, just listen to me here, but like, this was an otter, and like, and I don't think I convinced anybody, but I know that it wasn't a mink. In fact, a mink would be a new yard mammal or whatever. So I would rather be a mink, but it wasn't. And the photo does look like a mink, and the way that the face is and the way it's scrunched down, you can't quite see the tail.
Yep.
What do you do in iNaturalist when you are quite certain that the crowd has gotten it wrong? Do you just wait till you have a good otter picture, put that one up separately, and then just delete this one?
I don't know. Is it part of a video?
No.
Still image.
It's a still, and it's a very bad image.
It's a downfall when you have still images, and sometimes you need like a couple frames to show something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we should
I've had that
interview the
happen with
iNat
birds.
folks and talk to them about it.
I've had that happen with birds where you just get a couple pictures and you're like, crap.
Oh, yeah.
I know what that was, but like these images are so bad they actually make it look like something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you would get people going, no, George, you must have gotten, but it's a little like, wow, I totally see it. I would be going, that's a mink, but I saw the real creature bounding around, and it was pretty far away.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually measured the distance, and I know it's 300, 400 feet or so. I know. And I'm looking at through a scope, digiscoping. It's not a recipe for a wonderful photograph. I don't, anyway, it's cool that we have otters here, but now I've got to get a proper good photograph from the yard and then figure out what to do with this mink, which,
that's right. It's just going to eat you up. I did have one of those. I had a trogon that was like a milestone bird, and I had a crappy photo, and I put it on iNat. And someone said it was an oriole, and like the way the tail feather was kind of like blurry and funky, and like the colors, I was like, I guess I can see where you would see. And there was an argument, and I'd have to go back.
Yeah.
I don't think I lost as much sleep as you're about to on this, because I don't remember how it resolved itself, but I'll have to check.
I think when it's in the yard, that makes it a lot more personal.
Oh, totally.
Because you're
I agree with that. Yeah.
Right, because it's one thing to have unidentified things in the yard or whatever, people identify things for you. Maybe some of them are incorrect, but this is a case where I really think the ID is incorrect, and it shows up as mink in my yard.
Right. And you're the observer.
Well, that's just wrong,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Keep us posted. Well, what you do is you say, hey, lifeless people, get on here and give me the correct ID and support me in this. Right. You just get some overwhelm there.
Yeah, there you go.
That's exactly what you can do.
Yeah, no, what's going to happen, they're going to look at that, they're going, well, the thing looks like a mink.
Al totally screwed this one up. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're going to start, going there. Everybody's from the lifeless listeners are going to go mink, 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 mink.
He's really good with his gulls, but when it comes to the mustelids, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. They're going to. I don't know.
Reputation.
My gosh.
We are.
And then you start like thinking, like, could it have been a mink?
Yeah.
But I'm like, no.
You can get into your head. Yeah.
Oh,
you go through the whole thing.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
We are definitely not going to get through these questions, but I think we should do one more. Maybe we can record a few more for a bonus episode or something. Because
Yeah.
we'll see what we get through. But let's round out with your favorite sound of the year. Do y'all have answers for this? Something come to mind?
I kind of said mine. I think it probably would have been those emperor geese, even though it's not a particularly like amazing sound. Just like seeing them and suddenly realizing I was hearing them too. I was like, oh, that's a life. That's a life vocalization, and like that was thrilling. The one that kind of came back to me immediately. I'm not sure I have another one. Al?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I thought through this one enough to really, because I was thinking of some of these funky, when I post the spring in Japan trip, I had a day on my own in Hokkaido, and like seeing some of these funky things, warblers, leaf warblers that were up there, and how their songs are so different. And I was really like fixated on song in a way that I hadn't been for a while. And I was all by myself, so I wasn't needing to like say, well, that's a this and that's a that. I can just sort of work through it all. I remember that was a sort of sound day that I really enjoyed, in terms of, and I've forgotten exactly which species were the ones, like it was like, Sakhalin leaf warbler or these kinds of things, that were up there. And it was just fun, and thinking like, I should do this more often, but often you're with clients, or you're with, or you're
Yeah.
just birding around home where you don't have that level of like, I want to learn all this and figure it out. But that,
Yep.
yeah.
Molly,
Hokkaido.
you must have one. I'm thinking you got one.
I do have one. Actually, George, what I thought you would say is white-winged duck, which was a pretty cool experience this year,
That was
too.
pretty wild.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a crazy herd-only bird.
I think it was like the 8th recording ever of that bird that Jeff Kenny got for
Yeah,
white-winged duck when we were in Assam, India.
it
Yeah.
was like, the day that we had devoted to that being the main target bird, and it was so, so foggy. It was just
Yeah.
bizarrely foggy, and you just totally chalked it up as not being an option because there's construction happening and, like, water
Yeah,
dredging and all this stuff, and then
the
now it's
Park
on our
Service.
list.
Yeah, exactly. We managed to get it herd only. That was
Crazy.
really, really wild.
That was a crazy moment. Yeah, I was trying to think, and it hit me. Magellanic woodpecker drumming is my favorite sound of the year. Just heard it first, and it was just shot to the heart. And then we had a pair come in, and we spent like an hour with them too. That literally an hour with a pair, a few feet away from us, and they drummed a few times from so close, and it was pretty spectacular.
A Campephalus you can believe in.
That's a nice t-shirt.
Yeah. You see the Reiser brothers are working on the ivory bills.
I saw that.
Be interesting to see what they come up with.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, they mentioned that, I think when we talked to them, that they'd gotten all this footage from those folks that they didn't include in the Listers movie, but that.
And they went back down. They've been down there this
going
winter.
back down to sort of like get more stuff, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's a cool project. Yeah. Look forward to that. Yeah. Well, should we just wrap up with something you're looking forward to for next year?
Sure. I'll chime in. I'm looking forward to this scouting trip I'm doing with a small group of friends from Philly to Northeast India, to Arunachal Pradesh, to see some more of the Himalayas. I'm really excited about that. Just getting to know the Himalayas better, or the Himalayas, if you prefer.
Himalayas.
I'm looking forward to that. And I did have one kind of like year-end message that I thought I might encourage folks to think about, which is that, there's a lot that has been challenging about 2025. I think everybody would agree with that, probably. But I think something small that you can do to help, it provided you actually have the means, is to become a member of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, become a member of the American Birding Association, become a member of the American Bird Conservancy, and become a member of your local bird club or ornithological society. I think the first three I mentioned are, I think real leaders for birders in particular, not just conservation, but leading organizations for birders. Cornell, especially in research, ABC in conservation, ABA is sort of the legacy birding association. So I'd really encourage folks to become members of all three of those and also support your own local bird club, because that's often where the boots on the ground happen for new birders. And also, given that we're getting late here in the game, would be remiss to not say thanks to Koa Sporting Optics, who has been allowing us to do what we do. They have the best scopes in the business. We are really thankful to be able to use those on our trips. They have great binoculars as well, and they also have a new binocular, I understand, coming out in 2026. Cool. That is something to keep an eye out for. It sounds like it's going to be a really great binocular. So anyway, those are a couple things I wanted to share before we signed off, but I would be curious. What was your question again, Mollee?
Good question. What are you looking forward to next year?
That's right. Yeah. So for me, it was the Arunachal Pradesh trip. I'd be curious to hear what you guys have coming up.
What do I have? I think I'm most looking forward to getting back down to the New Zealand sub-Antarctic, and with George and with a bunch of folks that have signed up. I do, I was thinking about, we often sort of summarize what's gone, happy and so forth in the year and all these things. And we've touched on this a little bit, and it's a little political, but, I want to go birding in Israel. I want to go birding in Venezuela. I want to go birding with, no issues in a lot of these places where people are fighting. So just for my lifeless sake, can you just stop it, guys?
Chill out, everybody.
Chill out and be, just have a thought of peace, not just, for the birds and for the birders. So little self-serving, but I think we all would want a little peace.
We would all benefit from this, Al. So yeah, well said.
There you go. I think I'm most excited to go back to Alaska. I'm also really excited to go back to India in a couple months. And I actually think, as much as I love going to new places, getting your bearings in a place and going back and then having that second layer of discovery, I think is actually even more exciting for me. And that's the case for both of those. It'll be my second trip to both. So, yeah, all sorts of good stuff coming up, including a pelagic next week. So it just keeps on going.
Yeah. Looking forward to hearing how that goes too.
Yeah. We talked already about the whole micro adventure and, finding your own discoveries and whatnot. But last week I was in Trinidad and got to sit by myself with a mannequin lek for a little while. And I just reminded all over again how amazing those moments can be of just having an up close experience with any sort of wildlife. And I hope everyone can find that, whether that's a bird at your feeder or something on the other side of the world. Those are pretty powerful moments to have.
I think for me, 2025 was about the bugs in my backyard. Really starting to get a better bearing on insects and coming to the native plants. I spent a lot of the summer just doing that, and it was fabulous. So as micro adventures go, that did me real good. That did me solid.
Totally.
I got a fly on the snow the other day.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That is cool.
I haven't figured out what it is yet, but I'm like, you just sit there going like, how the hell can this, creature that is essentially, quote unquote, cold-blooded, hang out in the snow and it's below freezing. I'm like, and there it was walking around, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. Seems to
Nature's pretty
defy some
amazing.
logic. Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of learning new things, by next year at this time, I'm gonna know something about dragonflies. That's my next big thing to tackle. I don't know a thing about dragonflies, but that's how I felt about butterflies a few years ago, and now I'm really into butterflies. So, there's always room for more. That's my new learning challenge.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're well beyond our normal hour. This might be our longest episode of the year, or close to it anyway.
That's right. Hey, folks who listen, we wanted to ask for you, for us, if you haven't left a review, it's been a long time since we've asked folks to leave reviews wherever you listen, Apple, Spotify. It does us a lot of good. So if you enjoy the podcast, leave us a review. And if you've listened this long, surely you can't listen this long and not like us unless you're just.
Right. Yeah. We're minute 76 here, folks. You should be a fan if you're listening now.
If you don't like us, don't leave a review. Please.
Exactly. This is why we ask at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's right. Go review like Naturally Adventurous or something else.
There you go. It's all the same anyway, right?
They're all the same, interchangeable.
Yep.
Well, thanks, guys. Happy finish, everyone, to 2025. We're looking forward to being with you in 2026. Hopefully a great year ahead for all of us. We thank you for listening, and we'll be back again soon.
That's right. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.